far, it looked like a 100% even list on both sides. We got Secret Hunter, or the Hybrid Hunter, as Sottle, in charge of the deck naming committee, named it last week. Cube Paladin, Dragon Priest, and even Warlock, with Priest banned out on both sides. And again, I'm still in the hunt for Purple's deck list because, you know, I guess Raven put him in a mess up here, is what that's going to be. Yep. But other than that, the deck lists look identical from there on out. So that's our lone difference that we have in the two lineups. And we get in game number one, it's going to be Gallon on Cube Paladin. Is it Cube Paladin or Death Rattle Paladin, as, you know, once again, the head of the deck naming committee?
You know what? I will accept either in this point. I do think naming decks just after like one individual card gets a bit dull after points. So I'm going to go with Death Rattle Paladin. How about that?
Okay.
All right.
I'm going to go with Cube Paladin.
And that's why you were fired. But yeah, we're going to see more of a... well, you were fired. More of a mid-rangey battle here, I think, between these two lineups. There is the slow Paladin, the Death Rattle Paladin, but again, that's kind of a mid-rangey deck, right? It's just get some minions on board, Death Rattle them up, Kangor's back a huge board afterwards. It's not going to be the really slow, grindy consideration that we've seen in some of the other matchups.
Yeah, I saw Gallon playing this deck a few months back, and he was in top 100 Legend while he was playing it. And I thought it was like kind of a joke. I mean, he's literally just the first game I watched, he's got a meat wagon in his opening hand. And I go, what are you doing? He goes, oh, this deck's great. It just always has a minion on board. And as I started watching him, it really does seem like it's incredibly difficult to eliminate all the minion presence that Gallon has packed into this Paladin.
Yeah, I totally agree. Meat Wagon was just kind of a meme at one point. I think slowly but surely. It was one of those cards that when it was revealed, it's one of those cards that's scary, right? Like you look at it and you think, I don't see anything that's broken about this card yet, but we can definitely get there because it's just a very powerful tutor effect, and doing cheaty things like that is generally something that gets you very far in Hearthstone.
You know, I remember when this card first came out because Dan and I were casting a Team Brawl event, and we're all sitting around building decks, and Amnesiac's like, you know, brewing together some stuff, and like we're hanging out with the players, and then Dan just suddenly turns around with like this evil overlord look on his face. And
he has searched up, I know that look well.
He has searched up Attack 0 in the Hearthstone client, and the only thing in his deck is 2 meat wagons.
Yeah.
And I just lost it laughing because we'd been brewing for hours playing decks, and Dan is just like suddenly turned around, 2 meat wagons in the list.
Sometimes you just need to get some meat in your wagon. You just got to scratch that itch.
There's the meat wagon itself. I don't think it can come down in the presence of this, though. Taking a look at some of the package that's involved in this deck. Mechano Egg, you know, pretty much the prime thing I think that you can pull as far as that Death Rattle is concerned.
Yep. So Meat Wagon will then pull out the Mechano Egg because Mechano Egg is the 0 attack minion. The Mechano Egg and the Robosaur are then filling up your mech pool, and then Kangor's Endless Army, even if that initial burst of eggs and cubes and whatever else isn't enough to get the job done, you then get to do it all over again with Kangor's at the end.
And forbid you got the Ziliax attached to one of those.
Yep.
Woo! You know, we were talking about this just a moment ago too. The Spellstone inside these Hunter decks and how it feels like every single competitively viable deck right now has a way to fight against this plan.
Yes. And it's something that the more and more I've been playing the deck, the less I find myself like playing Spellstone on 5. It used to be the play in every matchup, right? Like Secret Spellstone was your nuts curve, and you just played it out on turn 5. Whereas now, more and more, I'm like trying to find like key spots where removal will be awkward for my opponent to play a Spellstone, or saving up for Force of Nature Savage Roar, which is in this case Tundra Rhino plus Spellstone. 2 cards, 14 damage from hand. Nerf it. There is a precedent set. It's too powerful.
Whoa! They nerfed everything in Druid. I want something back. I either want the Ancient Allure, the Keeper of the Grove. That's a package, by the way. Those two come together.
Okay.
Or I want my ramp, or I want my Force Nature Savage Roar. Taking them all from me.
Gallon getting to clear here with Blood Mage Consecration instead of having to commit that Pyromancer does get him a little bit of board presence and allows him to do it with a Cycle card instead, which is huge for him because Gallon's been very much stuck on the back foot so far, which you would expect in the matchup. You'd expect the Hybrid Hunter to go off just a little bit quicker than this Death Rattle Paladin does, but this Death Rattle Paladin is such a jack-of-all-trades deck. It really can do a little bit of just about everything. It can react to the state of a matchup and just play the game plan that it needs to.
To me, this is right into the wheelhouse for Gallon, too. I mean, this is what this deck wants to do. It wants your opponent to be making big plays and be able to check them. I feel like as soon as that happens, that's where Gallon suddenly becomes a massive favorite, kind of regardless of what the stats, prior to the game would say. In this spot too, Purple, Subject 9, you may notice that there is a tremendous amount of secrets missing from the right side of the hand right now. The battle cry happened. There's just no secrets left.
Yeah.
This is bad.
Sure is. Purple's just about out of gas right now. He's going to need to hit some hero cards sooner rather than later. He's got one more push with that Spellstone to come, but as mentioned, the metagame is just packed full of decks that can answer that right now, and Gallon, even after expending one answer, still has another one saved up with that Pyro Quality. And Gallon's not far away from just going off with his own egg stuff here with 2 cubes in hand and a meat wagon.
And you also might be kind of looking at this and going, well, part of this is Purple's traded so much. He traded his entire Spellstone turn. Imagine if he had not done that, the Blood Mage would have been a blowout at that point.
Oh, the Taldaram as well.
Gallon just loads up Blood Mage into the cube, just says, I want to find my key cards.
Yeah. It's max tempo that turn as well, right? If you think about it, it's 4-6 on board. Say go.
This is bad news for Purple. This is a Wild Pyromancer and Equality locked and loaded, and let's throw a Spirit Singer Umbra into that mix too. The Umbra Meat Wagon combo, the Meat Wagon Death Rattle happens, it brings out the egg, which brings out the 8/8. That's like the nightmare.
Alternatively, you could draw like 1,000,000 cards this turn and just fatigue yourself.
What I'm hearing is these are all my favorite things Gallon gets to do right now.
So my brain just immediately started calculating like really dumb Umbra Taldaram plays where you then like spawn Blood Mages onto the board and then the Death Rattles trigger and you burn like 6 cards, but it feels sweet.
It's like cartoon going between commercials. My hand is too full. Just cards flying everywhere.
So I don't think that's the play, but it would be hilarious.
Well, I don't think Gallon should just intentionally throw the game, but
I mean, it is America's. Can't even argue.
I am shocked and appalled at you right now. Oh, that's a bad... Look at Purple's face as this cube just points straight to the dome, too. He's like, yeah, I know what that means.
Meat Wagon, Pyro, Equality. We're going to get a couple of Blood Mages out of the deal here as well. Meccano Egg in play. Cube, Taldaram, Umbra. The almighty trio all stocked up for Gallon here. He can do revolting things on the following turn, Admirable.
And Purple with a second deadly shot here, and that kind of face. I'm going to guess this is... Oh, he's actually not just going to scoop it up. This is very unusual for Purple. So respect to his fellow competitor Gallon here.
Purple is a concedey kind of guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I have taken a lot of that inspiration as well.
I've been inspired to concede by Purple.
I scoop a lot of games.
He's going to put that on his business cards now. Inspired, that's admirable, to concede more games of Hearthstone.
Why? You get so many more games that way.
It's true.
Think about like just rapid fire at that point.
Yep.
If there's one thing I want to do when I'm done playing Hearthstone, it's play more Hearthstone. And look at this turn right here. Cube. That activates the 8/8. That activates the cube. Oh, but the board's full.
And we're out of room.
Yeah.
But that is still a large yikes. Right down the middle. Unlucky.
Okay, right down the middle.
Unlucky.
Oh, come on. Yeah. Gallon's going to go up 1-0, and pretty weird opener from Purple, where all the secrets get drawn and then Subject 9 gets drawn and doesn't have a hero card to back it up. That's pretty much
it looked very strong. It is a real new force in the metagame. I think Frodown was talking about how much success Ball Control has had with it while streaming. But it's one of those decks that, people will always be skeptical of because it's a new deck coming in as like the flavor of the week into a tournament. People will be very curious to see how it performs, and hey, it looked pretty powerful there on Gallon's end.
Certainly did. Gallon, a pretty powerful player in himself, too. 14th in points. As far as Americas are concerned this year. Also had a couple of top 4s in the tour stops in Montreal and Toronto this year.
Sure did. And he is, of course, we mentioned, a practice partner of Purple. Other practice partners you may have heard him jamming with. I'm actually just going to read this fact out from our research packet, verbatim. Gallon's voice can often be heard co-oping with Zalay, Fireback, Crane, and Ike during their streams. He seems to be the newest member of the playtest group that refers to themselves as Team Wiener.
Purple was 12th in points in this one. It's not too much of a surprise, I think, to see such strong competitors be practicing together and also have pretty even performances throughout the year. And, he joins Gallon with some of those top 8s that are in there. 2-time world champion ship competitor as well as a two-time champion of the Americas region. It was 2015 he won at the Folsom Street Foundry, and then later in 2017 he found himself winning again.
And if this was a medium yikes last game for Purple, this is now an enormous yikes because he had to defile for essentially nothing on the previous turn. Gallon had set himself up with a Divine Shield Hyena. Purple recognized that Defile had to be the play to set himself up for Hellfire, but then Gallon rolling himself a 4-health Animal Companion means that he gets to stick around on the board afterwards. But now, finally, the pressure has just been relinquished just a little bit, and there is now board clear potential available for Purple if he wants to go that route. Yeah, and knowing that the fact that Gallon's got 2 deadly shots loaded in the deck as well, I feel like really changes how you want to play this. And so I actually like the way that Purple is taking it a bit slow here and using the Spellstone, because Gallon is, you know, pretty much gassed himself out at this point. And so the options for Gallon are going to be, do I want to try to lean on Deathstalker Rexar to get back an advantage in terms of you know, number of cards, or do I want to lean on this hero power instead? And Purple's got the goods in terms of fighting off the hero powers, the Shroom Brewer, the Spellstone, and the Blood Reaver Gul'dan already. Yeah, and this is actually a great sequence of plays on both sides from Gallon and Purple. Purple left the 1-health minions on the board, which gave him the opportunity to go for Dread Infernal there if he wants to. He instead goes for Defile and Hooked Reaver, but I think Gallon had the response saved up there. He chose to play 1 secret. Of course, getting the hero power damage is very vital when he's pushing Purple down this low, but the secret he chose to play was the Freezing Trap, knowing that Purple was likely to generate a big minion on his turn, so now he can essentially just ignore that big minion, not have to worry about, you know, spending mana on Deadly Shot if he doesn't want to, because it's already, quote, dead to the Freezing Trap. Of course, one of the issues with that is it's a Hooked Reaver. Yup. That's one of the ones you definitely want to kill. You got to push through at some point. And so that's what Gallon's weighing up this turn. How important is the difference between Rexar and leaning on the hero power? And he's going to make that one final push before he has to make that decision. And this is quite threatening to Purple yet again. He can't really attack with this minion. He doesn't really have much defenses aside from that. It's been life gain. Right. I do like this choice from Gallon. I think the flanking strike there was less about, you know, trying to chew through the Hooked Reaver and just, as you said, trying to make that one last push. It's the only way he could generate a beast on the board for the Crackling Razormaw. And I think that's an important thing to learn about playing Deathstalker Rexar is when you are playing the aggressor in a matchup, as you are here, you want to Rexar with as much tempo as you possibly can. You don't want to fall behind on board and then play Rexar. You want to be ahead and then play Rexar. Yeah, pretty lovely setup here, too. Gets the, you know, still preserves the Freezing Trap in play. You know, as you mentioned, like kind of to deliver that tempo exactly. Right. Was hoping that Purple would not come correct with 2 Twilight Drakes that turn, I imagine, but not too big of a hurt for Gallon, I'd say. Yeah, it's an awkward turn, though. And Deadly Shot in itself, I've often found to be quite an awkward card in this deck because unless your hand is dead, you are often quite restricted on how much mana you want to spend, right? You often want to, you know, lock in secrets to upgrade your Spellstone. If you're in Rexar form, you're essentially choking out 2 mana a turn to press that hero power. So Deadly Shot is actually quite expensive to weave into a turn like this when it very rarely, like, gains you a huge amount of tempo. That's, like, one of my favorite cards, too. And basically because of all the reasons you mentioned. Okay. It's a tough card to use. You like being challenged. Yes. Yeah. And getting a reward for it at times, too. And, you know, when everything hits the fan, you kind of go, well, maybe this will work. Gallon loading up on Poisonous here, builds the Poisonous Beast and drops the Venom Strike Trap. Recognizing that he's just a little bit behind on board for now, so he needs to play catch up just a little bit. He's lost his aggressive hero power, so he is going to have to win this through board attrition. I think his play is also very nice with the consideration of Bone Mare in mind, because he knows that that is one of the big, like, blast-off plays for Purple here that he just wouldn't have been able to compete with. It'd be hard-pressed to imagine a scenario where there was no poison minion in play for a Bone Mare to come down. Yeah, Purple, he's got some really strong cards to work with here. The problem is he's got to find a way to actually make progress on that. You know, he's got kind of answers to what's going on, but he doesn't really need answers right now. He needs to start threatening Gallon. If that doesn't happen soon, it's, you know, somewhat unlikely to just happen in general. It's weird to say that the deck that started this term with 8 cards in hand versus the deck that has 3 cards in hand, one of those is losing the long game, and the answer might surprise you. Well, this is, I want to talk about this turn here from Purple, you know, getting aggressive with the Twilight Drake. This actually leaves Gallon a
pretty interesting opportunity where if Gallon trades over the 6/6 in this spot, it's a demon. So I think Purple intends to play Blood Reaver Gul'dan if that happens.
Sure.
That's a really interesting spot, you know, because on the other hand, if you leave the 6/6 in play, you're just leaving a bigger minion.
Right.
Not actually sure which to choose.
Oh. I think I would like to see him kill the 4/6 here.
It's kind of weird, but I think so.
I don't think you can have any particular read. I think it's a thing that casters quite often lean on is like, oh, Gul'dan's the far left card in the hand. The opponent probably has a read on that card. But like, you've got to think about it in more depth than that. Like, has he indicated anything that Gul'dan is there?
He literally just did it!
After much consideration, Gallon does choose to go for the Twilight Drake instead.
Wow.
And yeah, this might look very strange for you at home, but that Twilight Drake is not coming back to life after it gets killed, where there is a distinct possibility that the Dread Infernal will. I love this decision.
That is a brilliant play from Gallon to spot that too. I mean, he loses so much tempo if he kills the 6/6 instead.
Yep.
And now Purple gets presented a different opportunity on his side with Doomsayer. And you know, one of the ways that you want to Blood Reaver Gul'dan with this deck is clear skies. That's a difficult thing to do against Deathstalker Rexar. It's generating a minion every single turn. So Purple, I think, is going to do one of two things here, which is number one, get 2 threats online, you know, look at again Greymane Shrewbrewer, or find a middle ground between the two where he ends up going for like a Spellbreaker Doomsayer play. Or the third option is attempt to make this trade and then Blood Reaver Gul'dan afterwards. But now that you're staring at this 2/3 poisonous, that doesn't look so good, and so he's just going to jam it anyway, because Purple's a 10-mana kind of guy.
Gallon's play on the previous turn got him so much value out of these poisonous minions. He killed a Twilight Drake, a 6/6, and then because Purple traded, another 6/6 again with the Fresh Cobra. Purple definitely really wanted to see Snake Trap on that previous turn go off, as opposed to the 2/3.
That is just crazy how much of a difference spotting that can make. I mean, it's very rare that killing the smaller minion, despite both of them being, you know, effectively equal on board, ends up being better. But I think that one small maneuver can be the difference in Gallon being able to continue to fight this game and not.
Gets the Zombeast off the Master's Call. I believe he still has additional beasts alongside this. Yeah, Spring Paws and Tundra Rhinos, for example. So he could have whiffed, but he did pick one up.
Guessing it'd be Kill Command if he wants to play this Zombies. That thing is stacked too. It comes with that drawback of increasing your minion cost by 2. But a Boulder Fist Ogre that is also poisonous and also Divine Shield, and by the way is at an immediate discount. That's a lot of stuff on one minion.
And if you're not convinced yet, how about we throw in activating Kill Command into the deal?
Woo.
Your magic shall not save you.
It's just like the free detailing. The free floor mats.
I don't know why it came to my mind. I just always think about you fill up a tank of gas. You're like, no, I don't want a car wash. Like, I'm getting gas.
What?
Every single time I stop to get gas, like the thing is like, do you also want a car wash? And I'm like, no, I don't.
Stations try and upsell you car washes here?
Oh, all the time. At least where I am, anyway.
What a strange.
That's why I sold my car. I was tired of it. It's definitely not because I travel all the time.
Gallon back on the build a beast train.
The old screeching halt of hero powers. Game likely to start going into slower effect, but I think once again Gallon has reached that stage where his advantage is superior in the long term. You know, Purple, it's great to have that cooldown hero power and restore life, but Gallon, his hero power is so moldable to the situation where if he just needs to make big thing turn after turn, he has the liberty to do that.
Such as an untargetable 6/9 taunt.
I mean, we've reached that stage where the Doomsayer is likely to basically never happen.
Right.
That's a bad thing. That card is so important in generating the tempo swings you need. He's going for it, though.
Yeah, I was about to say, this looks to be about his last opportunity. The 2/4, the Homunculus is necessary to protect the Doomsayer just from a single Spring Paw from hand, which, your opponent is incredibly likely to have a Spring Pour because they have 5 cards in hand, and 2 of those cards have come from Master's Call. So you know they are specifically beasts that have not yet been played this game. That means the odds of one of them being Spring Pour is extremely high.
I wonder.
Looks like Galen's considering the difference of just playing his big Zombies and actually using the hero power this turn. You know, that's something you do need and want to be cranking out turn after turn, but if you have a good enough turn, it doesn't need to be done, but Galen's in the hunt for more.
See if Galen is a bloat-back gamer. This is something we discussed quite extensively last week. Why is that funny?
I don't know. It's just a funny sounding. Just think about the 2 words put next to each other. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Is Galen a bloat-bat gamer?
Well, I can confirm, Admirable, he is in fact a bloat-bat gamer. We talked about this pretty extensively last week in the... I personally, even when ahead on board, will take a bloat-bat beast when available, because you never know when that is going to come up. Whereas just building a big dumb pile of stats, that happens every single time if you want it to from the Rexar hero power. So Galen does seem to agree here. Does take the zombies as a little bit of an insurance policy.
You know, I'm thinking back to the tour stop that happened in Atlanta, where Galen was able to win games off the back of Bloatbat.
Yeah,
got shuffled into a deck and then showed back up. I think it was thanks to Katharina, and then he was able to play dead his Bloatbat and activate the Poisonous to eliminate the board from Fino. That was one of the best series I've seen all year.
Hydra, same kind of philosophy.
Yeah, Hydra is one I can get on board with Hydra.
Good, yeah.
I recall when the set had first come out that Hydra was in, and we had our heated, passionate debates about which was better at 5, Vile Spine or Hydra.
Yes.
And we both were convinced of the other's argument, but we're also convinced of our own.
Yes. I feel like that's every discussion we've ever had with each other.
Yeah, try to picture me in a heated debate over a hot topic. It rarely happens.
Now I'm just picturing you in a hot topic. It's an entirely different animal.
I had long hair in high school.
Did you really?
Yeah, it was down to my shoulders.
Was it as long as mine?
It wasn't as long as yours. It was way more fabulous, though.
Oh, come on. That's shade.
But it wasn't, I wasn't as dedicated, and that's really where I, you know, once again, we're on even footing. I'm convinced of both sides.
Not sure how many secrets are left for this Subject 9, but if there are some to pull out, there is some great value with those Spellstones to be had, and I believe the Tundra Rhino is still remaining, so there is that Force of Nature Savage Roar style combo potential coming out in the future for Galen.
I just never really thought of it that way.
Yeah.
It just makes sense.
It's just 14 damage charge.
I miss it so much. I don't even know why.
The difference being that Hunter actually has to wait until turn 10 to play it. They can't just play it on turn 7 or something.
Yeah.
Unlucky.
Their Ancient Allure is a lot better than that one of the Days of Yore.
Wait, what's their Ancient Allure?
Well, it's Deathstalker Rexar, just keeps going.
Ah, yes. Oh, yeah, heals you for 5 as well.
Yeah.
Story checks out.
Yeah. Enough nostalgia, though. Galen in the hunt for the right play. His Build-A-Beasts have started to kind of wane a bit here. It doesn't really feel like he's got a powerful set of plays. And any way you slice it, he's going to have to give up something he doesn't necessarily want to give up. And has yet to put together, you know, a big lifesteal minion as well. You know, over time, that 3 damage, it'll start to clock you.
Yep. But now Galen does have gas for days. 3 secrets coming out from the Subject 9 and 2 Spellstones that they will upgrade. Purple not with an AoE hand right now, and he's used Defiles and Hellfires already. So if Galen can just not fall behind over the coming turns, he's going to have huge pushes over the next couple of turns.
This doesn't really feel like much of a get something going kind of hand for Purple, though. It's just a bunch of minions.
So many bloody decisions. This curse has become our greatest strength.
I think that is a great demonstration of the value that tempo has in these 2 players' minds.
Could be a pretty huge Hunter's Mark here as well. Gallon has a 9-mana turn to get his 4 3/3s in play whenever he wants it. But leaving that 6/5 on board to over-contest might be somewhat frustrating for him. Solve that problem now if he wants. Looks like he's just going to let it chill for now.
It's really hard to use that Hunter's Mark in that spot. And now, I'm really curious what direction Purple wants to take this, because this is the first opportunity to really get aggressive that he's had. So to evaluate the Wandering Monster, get a peek at whether or not that's another secret that matters. And so now he knows it's Snipe. It's not the greatest news in the world. I imagine Purple was interested in healing up his Gen Greymane this turn.
Yep.
Suddenly that's not really an option.
Even shuts down any kind of like reasonable anti-magic shell play this turn. Could have got 2 minions down, landed the anti-magic shell, but with the second one getting sniped now, it's kind of miserable.
That is one of the big kickers here, I think, for Gallon as well, is to figure out what kind of Lich King card this is.
Right.
You know, it's slowly getting narrower and narrower. At this point, you know it's not Death and Decay.
You sure do.
I think that's some major sigh of relief when you don't just see your entire board swell up and die because of one Lich King card that's been hanging around for a while.
Right. Oh, I need to correct myself, actually. Gallon's list does not play the Tundra Rhino that I've been expecting to see come out there at any given point. It's just not in there.
Yep, neither is Purple's.
So forget everything we said about Force of Nature Savage Roar.
You could always make the Tundra Rhino
Snow Flipper Penguin.
Yeah. Another big dumb stat minion.
Yeah, it is a Hydra though. Gives him the juice.
Gallon, his plays just feel so close to getting the job done. Just everything is one tick of attack off, and it's like, yeah.
You can see just turn by turn though, with Purple's lack of access to life tap right now, the card deficit, the value deficit is just getting overwhelmingly in Gallon's favor as he just builds a new beast turn after turn. And the great thing about, the quality of beasts that you can build from Deathstalker Rexar is you don't really have to sacrifice significant tempo to amass all of this value. There's so many, Rush and Cave Hydra and, destructive effects that you can pull out Deathstalker Rexar that give you board tempo at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, Purple, he's just being choked out of the matchup right here. He has Spellbreaker for this hyena, but
magic shall not save
just, this is really not enough.
Such minimal value from that anti-magic shell now as well, but I agree with Purple's decision. He was not going to wait around. He has a 10-mana Mountain Giant in his hand next turn, and a Frozen Twilight Drake. He's not going to be getting any explosive turns out, and we talked about Purple's tendency to concede. Guys, don't read anything into that. It's not Purple tilting or rage quitting or anything like that. He just...
It seems like, Sottle, that is you and I. We both hate Even Warlock right now.
Whoa, do we? Yeah, we
do.
Yeah.
And I love Even Warlock, and I hate it right now.
Wow. I know we've had some question marks watching some of the games that have been played, though, about, some of the timings of, when players were pushing, when they were using their coin, specific minions that they were trying to play, whether to go for Tap Giant or whether to play minions. There are a lot of different paths that you can take with this deck that do squeeze out a couple of extra % here and there. And I do also agree with what TJ was saying in the previous series, where, yes, Evenlock has a lot of bad matchups right now, but they're not 30-70 matchups. No. They're somewhat unfavorable matchups where you can just about get through a win. And it's similar in essence, since we've been talking so much about Force of Nature Savage Roar, as to how mid-range Druid used to be in several metas, where it was kind of like 48% against every deck, but if you were a good player, you could up that 48 to the 51, 52 that you needed and just get there.
Yeah. That's exactly how it was. It was an okay deck.
Yeah.
And when you were looking for a third deck that just didn't get obliterated by the top two decks, you're like, okay sounds pretty good. It's an okay deck. I'll give it that. But your quote last week of Even Warlock, the deck's so bad, even itself beats it.
That was your quote.
Was that my quote?
I quoted you saying it.
I don't even remember.
You didn't say it. Yeah.
you made up me saying,
Yeah.
I said something to that degree.
Right.
And God, I hate Even Warlock right now.
I just adapted something you said into a better soundbite. That's what I do.
Well, you know, we talked about this last week,
We
too.
sure did, yeah.
It's a good thing they pay me to talk. This matchup, though, I feel like it's really tough for Galen to grab a foothold and keep it for too long. I feel like almost everything that the Death Rattle / Cube Paladin is doing is in some way leading to a bigger turn than what Galen is capable of. Just even right here. What do you do now?
Weep uncontrollably. Just got to keep playing stats and going face and hope it works. Honestly, I just don't really see a better plan than this. I mean, I know your feelings towards trading. Oh, okay, that's what you do. Never mind. I see your stance on trading over Devilsaur X, right? Like, you hate it in just about every scenario.
Yeah.
It's a completely different animal yet again when the thing you're giving your opponent is not a 5-5 but an 8-8.
Yeah, this matchup, I feel like it's such a unique thing where I'm like, if I kill this egg, I'm gonna die. And if I don't kill this egg, I'm gonna die.
Yes.
That's a lot of what it feels like to me when I end up playing this matchup, because just every single time I'm left wondering, how do I get out of this scenario? And oftentimes I have tried well, let's just go face and see what happens. And the answer is, if your opponent ever has a quality, the game ends. You lose tempo, your opponent gets immense value, and you don't really get to recover from it.
Couple of cute sequences there while Admiral was talking. Firstly, Galen made a couple of attacks on his turn there so he could save an activation of Defile. Defile procced one less time, which meant that he kept his Spellbreaker on board, which is a huge deal. And also on the previous turn, you saw even after he silenced the egg, he continued to trade over it and take it off the board. And that was just a consideration of Purple having Carnivorous Cube in hand, because Galen saw that Purple coined the egg on the previous turn, which is usually a big signifier of Cube coming down. So he just did not want that Cube target to be hanging around on the board. 2 for 2! Press the button.
Wow.
Summon the Spellbreaker.
Well, I mean, you can see it in both players' faces, too. Galen is like, oh my gosh, shaking his head, kind of laughing about it. Purple's laughing about it, too. Like, wow, really? Yeah. Like, I needed this to happen in order to win. When you don't have the equality, you do need a minion to stick, and Galen has had the hand that can beat this.
Yes. It's blue sky thinking time, Admirable. Yes, Purple got both his eggs Spellbreakered immediately, but he does have a hand with Spike-Rich Steed, with 2 cubes, and with Umbra. So the power level of some things now that he cannot get silenced if he ever gets to that point is actually very high. And getting to that point is only really an equality draw away, but he is going to need that equality.
Yes, that's really the issue right now, is that Purple does not, you know, he's not drawing extra cards. He's drawing the 1 card a turn. Both eggs got answered.
So many
and he's about to take about 60 billion damage, it feels like. Galen can set him to 4.
4, 8, 12, 60 billion. Yep, yeah, that's right.
Now, granted, I mean, Purple's at 60 billion and 4 life, but... Anyway you slice this, Galen has a massive advantage right now. Purple's got a 2 and 15, I think, to stay in this game.
Does anything ever trade over this 1-1? I'm struggling to see a real reason for it. There's 8 mana available for Purple anyway, so he has a guaranteed Spike-Rich Steed target on the following turn.
The reason would be to occupy that 2 mana, and equality gets drawn!
Okay.
Huge draw for Purple! And Galen's 9 mana turn is not spectacular right now. I mean, there's a Lich King there. But I think I think Purple can actually get out of this situation now. Oh, and if Galen had gone face!
Yep.
The second Hellfire drawn!
Yep. I was really struggling to see the reason to kill that 1-1. Choking 2 mana is all well and good, but what were they going to do with that 2 mana anyway? It's not really a deck packed with 2 drops.
Oh!
Equality number 2. Now that extra 1-1 on board is huge for Purple.
This is insane. This is not the ending of this game that I pictured, for certain.
Absolutely not.
Cube pressed the button, and now Spikered Steed, Umbra, and Cube, Shivala, Uther. There's a real chance that Purple can get past this Gul'dan and the push in general from Gallon. It's a long road, though.
And shadow.
But you may notice this is not a particularly juiced Gul'dan.
Very mediocre push coming out of the Gul'dan. Gallon only himself got down to 16 as well, which is pretty much the nightmare number for Evenlock, because he now has these Hooked Reavers stranded as 4/4s probably for most of the game now. Health total only going to be going up from this point.
Purple faces a pretty big decision here, too. You've seen both Spellbreakers hit the bin. If you don't restore health this turn, though, that's really one of the main reasons I think Gallon's at playing this Blood Reaver Gul'dan. It's so easy to just run the True Silver into this 2/4.
Yep.
And Purple's looking way deeper than that. He's trying to think himself, how do I avoid losing this game? Catastrophe struck.
Move quickly.
I dodged the raindrops.
I really did, like, Purple's face right now, if I had to interpret it, it really looks like a am I supposed to play around double Hellfire face right now.
Yeah, and I think he definitely is supposed to, and I think this is the strongest way
True Silver now has
to do that. Yeah.
Face, and it does.
Reporting for duty.
He, just for a second, moused over Uther, which I think would have been a less than stellar way of doing it, because I think getting that Spikeridge Steed cast was essential to discount the Shivala on the meantime.
No attack from the 3/7 either. Paying big heat to the Hooked Reavers in this spot. I'm so happy that I'm like very intimately familiar with the way that these two players play, because this is like exactly what I envisioned Purple doing, and I didn't quite know how to emphasize that. And honestly, the Crystal Smith's Kangor stolen away can be a bit of a worry for Purple. You know, over time, this hero power is going to keep wearing him down.
He's got 15 healing from an Uther and then a Shivala to back that up as well.
A Shivala, to me, is going to be key because he has to use the Uther this turn. Gallon didn't leave him a minion left to attack, and Purple, he definitely knows what's up at that stage. That also means that Purple's got to get busy, too. He's got to set him at 15. But he's got the Shivala to answer one of the Hooked Reavers.
In fact, he didn't have to, right? He didn't have to also... Did the recruit go face there as well?
The recruit went face,
yeah.
But I think at this stage he's got to make something happen. Gallon draws Mountain Giant to add to this as well.
Yikes.
No damage incoming though, so step number 2 is figure out how to do this, and wow. Tarim, usually a pretty good way to equalize board positions.
Lots of considerations here for Purple about the timing of this Shivala in particular, because if he does continue to discount it, he can get a full heal with the Spirit Singer Umbra Carnivorous Cube combination at basically any point he wants it. But that still involves drawing spells, getting the Shivala down cheaper. There is a board state that needs answering right now, but as you mentioned, Sunkeeper Tarim does that just fine.
Yes, it does. Pretty substantial turn. The Wild Pyromancer here pretty darn threatening too. You know, if Gallon manages to get through this board state, the Wild Pyromancer can, just start hammering away, and at every single step turns spells into just that extra damage you need to keep picking off your opponent's minions. Now Gallon's on the receiving end of what this feels like. Blood Reaver Gul'dan is a heck of a card in the late game, but it does not always get the job done.
My hunger grows.
So I wonder now, has all healing been exhausted from Purple's deck that is not Shivala?
Nope.
True Silver Champion is the lost consideration. I was just formulating a plan as to whether Gallon could ever survive through just pinging face a whole bunch of times, but does not seem likely with the hand that Purple has. But sight unseen, it may have been something that Gallon just leant towards for a second, but now there's a huge board state that needs dealing with yet again. And there are 2 more 3/7 taunts yet to come out of this cube.
if you try to pressure through the plan, I like the plan that Gallon came up with here, but this got massively punished. You know, Purple holding on to Cube and holding on to Spirit Singer Umbra recognizes, you know what? 2 more 3/7s is way good enough with these 2 minions. Saw Gallon use one of the Hellfires, so not worried about his Cube dying to, you know, pair Hellfires or what have you. The Terrams are outside of that range. I think Purple's turned this corner completely.
The light bends to my will.
Ah, yes. Kangor Spellstone suck. That common Warlock interaction. But now by having to play that minion, Purple can now heal out of range with Shivala at any point he wants. I suggest that point might be fairly soon, but he still has a couple of turns to get cooking here. He knows that the burst damage is just down to 1 Hellfire and 1 hero power. That's all that's coming out. But it's just too good a turn. Just load up the board.
It's also just so much damage. I mean, look at what's happening here.
Yeah, and just looking at Gallon's reaction, I think he was trying to play this long game where he tried to mitigate damage while pushing through hero powers to stop Shivala being a big threat. Only 7 cards remain in Purple's deck, so he's very likely to have Shivala, as well, of course, it being the far left card that Gallon could have potentially had a read on. But that turn where he just had to heal, he had to do something defensive with the Crystal Smith Kangor, you could see the look on his face. That was the turn where I think he finally just gave up on his last win condition in the matchup.
One damage off.
Looks like 14 to me. Wait, no. That's lethal, right?
Oh yeah, it's 15 because of the Terram.
You trade the Tarim and the Consecration.
Ah! Aha! Didn't have lethal after all. Purple picks up his first game of the series. And we're headed on to game 4, and Gallon, you can see the look on his face. What happened?
I mean, it was a story of just back-to-back draws on both sides from both players. It was 2 Spellbreakers for Gallon, destroying the Meccano eggs, which made it look like Purple just had nowhere.
But he's got 3 tries with it.
Yeah, and fortunately for one of these players, there must be an even lock victory in this series. It has to happen. It remains on both sides. For Gallon, it is his 1 remaining deck. For Purple, he has that and the Hybrid Hunter to pick up a victory with. But it looks like if these opening hands are anything to go by, that we might be staring deep into the dark depths of an even lock mirror.
Well, I'm not entirely convinced of that. I think Gallon's opening hand's pretty darn good for the matchup.
May I direct your attention to Purple's hand?
All right. I'm seeing it. Can I direct you to now the Vulgar Homunculus that was just found?
I like this, by the way, from Purple. Not snapping the Razormaw onto the Diamol, which is your 1-2 curve. You play it just about every time in every matchup. But he has Springpaw in hand, so he knows if a big threat comes down from Gallon over the next couple of turns, then he can make a real mess of things with a Springpaw adapted off-crackling Razormaw.
Not only that, but the Freezing Trap to go with it. You know, you can use the Springpaw simply to buff up the Hyena. And then roll from there. Gallon, though, Gallon's hand is fantastic for the matchup. And this is one of the things that I do like about Even Warlock, is that it does have these kinds of draws where your hand is just so good in the matchup that you can fight against just about anything. Kind of going back to what you were talking about earlier. It's not that the deck, that we dislike it, like, it's just not the right thing to do. It's that it has a lot of consistency issues with it. You do need key cards and key matchups. And so because of that, a lot of your matchups end up feeling kind of okay.
Well, I think this is a point TJ made somewhat facetiously earlier, as he is wont to do, but I think it's actually a really good point, is that I don't think it has consistency issues. I think it's just consistently mediocre. And that's not good enough in a lot of matchups, but at the same time, you never feel like you're getting hammered in any matchup because your deck consistently does this same reasonably powerful thing all the time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think that's very accurate.
Good job, TJ.
Good job, TJ. Great job today.
Too soon.
Gallon left with a pretty tough choice. Face up. I am personally a Hellfire this to buff my Spellstone to full kind of guy. However, when you have both Hellfires, your opponents just played a secret, and they have the coin, and they happen to be Hunter, you are worried about Spellstone into Spellstone. Like, that you are worried about that exact sequence taking place and having no answer to it whatsoever.
Right.
But you're also worried about Deadly Shot. You're also worried about Hunter's Mark.
So worried about whether this secret is just a freezing trap, which it makes playing just a big idiot really quite useless for you. Purple's not worried about anything right now. He's just jamming.
I mean, I wouldn't be worried about much of this hand either. I'd be like, phew, my opponent looks like they needed a Hellfire. That's great for me. I have a Spellstone.
I think Defile would be the one thing you wouldn't really want to see here as Purple.
Interesting. It's quite unexpected from my stance, but I do like the way it ends up looking on board. I mean, Purple just has a Dire Mole out now, and it's really prompting some action from Purple's side. If he goes with the Spellstone here, Gallon gets the payoff of having used his Spellstone already to pad that life total. It's a Hellfire right away. Purple goes for the Crackling Razor Maul and finds the best result.
Yeah, you can feel it here. It's a palpable dance between the two players of just Purple wanting to get Hellfired before he plays his Spellstone and Gallon not wanting to Hellfire until Purple plays his Spellstone. You see yet again Purple just generating a board that's just a juicy looking Hellfire for the opponent, but Gallon has to think long and hard. Even with that spare Hellfire on board, it's such premium removal in this matchup that you do look to try and survive as long as you can without using it.
It is one of the things that I think Gallon is constantly searching for, is how can I avoid catastrophe?
Yes.
And the catastrophe is literally just double Spellstone. But at this point, now he knows one of the cards is Lynx, he knows that one of the cards is a coin, he knows that one of the cards is freshly drawn. The odds of the last two main cards are both Spellstones is a long shot, to say the least.
Now, after this second Hellfire gets fired out, Purple is going to need a refill sharpish, and he does not really have one right now. He does have Master's Call, which, yes, is literally a thing that refills your hand. He needs to pay mana to get minions onto the board, not into his hand right now.
Does find Zul'jin, though, and that's a lot of endgame padding.
Yeah, it's 6 3/3s right now.
Gallon is on 7, so, you know, leaning on that hero power turn after turn.
Yep.
It's not worthless. Second Shroom Brewer, though. They're looking a little bit more worthless now.
Oh, Gallon, though. I mean, this is the value of going face in full effect here. Because Purple's been so aggressive, because he's pushed so much damage, look at how bad a play Gallon has to make. You've reduced your opponent's value by dealing damage to their face. He couldn't play a Hooked Reaver there. He couldn't play a Mountain Giant. He couldn't play a big minion because he would have been dead to a single kill command. Sometimes going face isn't just a tempo play. Sometimes it means that you get better value as well.
Well said. And Purple, yet again, really stripping that away. This Hyena is no joke right now. Now, 2 Hooked Reavers, I'm not going to pass that up, okay? I'm just not going to do it. Now,
well, he's alive to the single kill command now as well, which is a huge difference.
The Spellbreaker makes the right argument, but at this point, Gallon's got to get some defense set.
Yeah.
Your magic shall
But remember the little wrinkle in the deck building that we've been seeing out of these decks that are markedly similar from Purple and Gallon is the copies of Deadly Shot that they both play. That Hunter's Mark.
Huge in this spot.
Yep. Hunter's Mark and Deadly Shot, similar things here, except the Hunter's Mark guarantees the good outcome that you're looking for. It means now that Gallon would be dead to a copy of Kill Command. But it's just not there.
to my side.
Honk.
Yeah, that little piggy goes to market.
Yep, and now with the Flanking Strike, no, he's 1 mana off. Can't get Flanking Strike and the hero power through. Or else that would have been a lethal huffer roll. But now Gallon knows he's learned something about his opponent's hand, and that is absence of the card kill command. because he would have been dead to kill command on the previous turn, so he knows it's not there.
I think he's dead, though. His play is the Hooked Reaver. It's the Shroom Brewer. That leaves him vulnerable to second flanking strike.
With 3-5-7 going face, yep. Story checks out.
Wow, Purple ties it up. Gallon, you see a bit of a from there right at the end. And as you said, Sottle, there must always be an even Warlock.
The deep, dark, dank depths of an even lock mirror.
I don't think Danksy could just almost strictly a benefit in the matchup. However, when you have Doomsayer, going first tends to be better. You get to control when your opponent plays their Mountain Giant or their Twilight Drake, and you get to seize that tempo instead. It's a massive difference.
Well, Purple is going first, does have the Doomsayer loaded up. He is going to want a threat to go alongside that. I've seen Purple give a little pensive look over his hand there. I've played some even lock with Purple, and he is a fan of some opening hands that you would not believe when playing even lock. Like, he is not a just full mulligan away for the Mountain Giant kind of guy. I've seen him full keep some hands and explain why in some very, very disjointed ways. But as I mentioned earlier, Purple does not always 100% believe his explanations in his own Hearthstone play.
Well, I do tend to believe it in this matchup as well. You know, I have a great deal of games played alongside Purple with even Warlock, and we have a pretty large list of deliberations under our belt in terms of keeping some questionable-looking cards. And I definitely would tend to agree. You know, one of the things I think is important is not only to have Mountain Giant, but in this matchup specifically, also to have Vulgar Homunculus. The fact that it disrupts something, the fact that it can build up a Spellstone, I think are two of the most important facets of the matchup as well. You know, you see Gallon has Homunculus, and he has Spellstone as well. This is a guaranteed Doomsayer turn here from Purple, so he gets the first Mountain Giant, and now we're off to the races. This is where suddenly that Vulgar Homunculus, that Spellstone, and the little utility cards that come with it end up being so important. And Gallon's going to throw away a card here, very likely, in order to get something done. But now the choice for Gallon is it Doomsayer that you throw away? Is it Acidic Swamp Ooze that throws away? Or do you ever use the Homunculus to buff your Spellstone? And I think this is the wisest choice. That card's not doing anything in the matchup.
Nothing more than being a 3-2.
Tap here is a nod for Purple in case he draws second Mountain Giant as well. There's only one matchup I don't like doing that in, and it's a matchup where my min can get sapped.
You do it against Druid as well with the threat of Naturalize coming down?
I tend to because of the importance of landing Hooked Reaver life totals. It's a pretty nominal difference, but it definitely can be the difference in you know, winning or losing a game, being able to activate a Hooked Reaver or not.
So here's that interaction you talked about a couple of turns ago. Gallon, yes, forced to go second with the Mountain Giant, but he did have a Homunculus alongside it, which means that now Purple does not really have too much freedom in what he wants to do with his Mountain Giant. He'll have to commit other cards like Spellstone or Spellbreaker if he wants to trade or push face. Otherwise, that's an 8-8 going into a 2-4, which is an attack that Gallon will be pretty happy with in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, and now this is really the turn for Gallon where you know, things get a little bit murky in the water. There's no longer a coin there, so he is operating from behind in tempo, and you have the option to either try to fight for value on board or just reset the Mountain Giants. And I typically have been in favor of simply resetting the Mountain Giants in these situations.
I remember you talking about this last week. We got off and we had quite an extended discussion backstage about like, even when you're going first and you have tempo, you were saying that like pushing the 8 damage doesn't always work out for you because you give your opponent too much freedom. Yeah,
I have found that when in these matchups that driving the pace is so important. And typically when you're in this kind of matchup and you're going first, a lot of times what ends up happening is your opponent has the coin, so they get to drive that tempo on a very specific turn. That's a difficult mechanism to actually cope with as an even Warlock deck. Your tools are just very clunky. They're very good, but they're very clunky. Right. And when your opponent's doing that same thing and they have coin, they get to drive that pace better than you do. Now that Gallon has used coin, however, it's definitely more on the onus of Gallon, I think, to be resetting this board and trying to snag back that tempo. It looks like he's got a different plan in mind, though.
Whoa! I saw the Doomsayer come down. So I was like, okay, so we trade Giants. You have the Doomsayer on board. You have something that you need to do to take care of the Doomsayer. That's fine. But then the Sun Fury came down. I was like, wait, is he going to taunt the Giant and value trade? No, that's nonsense. He just taunts up the Doomsayer, smash his face with the Giant instead, and now he's almost irreparably lost the board state.
It's definitely an interesting play. When your opponent Spellbreakers in this instance, you do get a large life total refund.
Yeah.
By making this exact play right here. So I did like the play from Gallon. I think it was probably his best attempt to try and reset the board. It's just that it ties the hands for purple to have to Spellbreaker the Doomsayer rather than Spellbreaker a Twilight Drake.
That's fair.
However, no coin means that purple, once again, he's the one driving the action here.
This feels like the first really kind of awkward turn for purple, when you can see it in the pace of his play. He's been very rapid in his decisions going up to now, where now there's a lot more consideration going through. The Dread Infernal does get some nice things done, though, allows him to pick up a couple of nice trades, and again, just so far ahead on board that Gallon is really just locked into this damage plan more than anything at the moment, it feels like.
And I don't think that's going to end up working here. I think purple, it's just, he's found the right sequence here to make the turns awkward for Gallon, and he's landing the first 8 and has an impactful 8 to land. And I think that is such an important facet of this matchup.
Right.
You know, that's really the one thing I think to take into consideration is if purple's ideal situation comes to fruition, which is has the Doomsayer, has the Mountain Giant, has decent follow-up, that very much favors the player who's going first in that instance. You know, both players in ideal hands just means that when purple's taking his turn, it's basically an extra turn in comparison to Gallon.
It's one way of putting it. Makes sense. If you don't think about it.
Steal my lines.
Yeah, admirable 2019.
Steals my rolls. Steals my lines. I get it.
Steals your roll? Whoa. You best be talking about breakfast rolls.
Well, you can have all those. I can't eat them right now.
All right, fair enough.
Well, I can. I definitely do. I attempt to not do that. Though. I think Gallon's found the one line that doesn't just leave him completely obliterated.
Yeah. And now there will be an internal chant from Gallon, and it goes something like no Lich King, 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 no Lich King.
Yay!
Purple's going to make him wait.
When your opponent drags that card and then waits for a second, though, this is like the ultimate relief on Gallon's side.
For sure.
It was not Lich King. Oh!
Are we playing that?
It's very possible that can get played right now. And
next turn, it gives you the tempo set up into the Blood Reaver Gul'dan. But yeah, I think you are more fearful. If there's one card that can reverse swing the tempo, it's Lich King. If you miss your Lich King and your opponent hits it, that can really change everything in the matchup.
Doomsayer is easily one of the weirdest, most powerful, most delicate, and weakest cards in this deck, where it either looks like a masterpiece or you are just wondering why it's in your hand.
Yep.
There's very little in between with that card where this deck is concerned. And right here, that Doomsayer may have saved purple from completely losing tempo. He gets a fresh draw. Gallon's going to throw this into the Blood Reaver Gul'dan pool.
A Blood Reaver Gul'dan that he doesn't even have in hand, by the way. That is some serious long-term planning to just throw away a 6/6.
And purple does get a bit rewarded here. Finds a minion that's big enough for Bone Mare to matter on. But there's a possibility he doesn't use that. You know, because he's got his own Blood Reaver Gul'dan, just loading up the board to be able to challenge a Lich King could be more important.
Yeah, exactly. I like playing 8 power this turn. So if Lich King comes down, you just trade it off and you play your Gul'dan.
One more tap for good measure. Doesn't find a Spellstone.
That makes 8 where I'm from.
Oh. That Mountain Giant provides a nice follow-up if you decide to go to Lich King. That's exactly where it'll go.
Death and Decay is damage. There is a small window here where purple is potentially going to be a little bit low. He's going to go up to 12 here with the Blood Reaver Gul'dan. Does have a pretty big board coming out, though, if I remember correctly. I think there's a Dread Infernal inside there. Yeah, there it is, the 6/6. And so now what?
Well, you played that one. That's the big one.
Concur.
Galen's just going to take his time, try to picture the entire turn before he takes a step.
Yeah, it's
maybe there's something else there.
Right. But it's a really simple map at this point, right? You just need to make the play that gives you the highest opportunity of a minion hitting your opponent in the face the next turn, because that just needs to happen. Your opponent has Gul'dan, you don't. Your Lich King did not get you anywhere. You need to push now when you need to end the game if you're in Galen's shoes. So yeah, life taps down to 15 with the Homunculus as well. Puts out an 8/8 and a 7/7 that purple has to try and contest here, and Death and Decay plus Hellfire is going to clear out any taunts, more or less, that will come down in the way. Bonemare might have something to say about that, but no, I don't even think it does.
I think that's really the mission here for purple, is the way you said it. You know, Spellbreaker in this matchup, just so much is about you take a taunt out of the way, and that's it.
Is he dead? I think he's dead.
It's 14.
Goes to 13,
oh,
yeah.
That's one off, isn't it?
No, he has Death and Decay and Hellfire.
That's only 14.
It is only 14, I can't count.
And I think that was the quick turn from purple, was that calculation, but he's seeing something he doesn't like. As his face is... I wouldn't say it was a pleasant look going into Galen's turn.
Right. Death and Decay just looks too juicy, but again, it's just the nature of, because you're playing an even deck, when you suddenly get this randomly generated odd cost card thrown into your hand, it just creates such chaos with your mana curve, even on 10 mana.
I mean, I really don't know what direction he's supposed to be taking here. He needs to get the Gul'dan on the line, but he really needs to keep a damage push going, and he really needs to not lose tempo. And
really
suddenly you're asking for a lot of things.
Yeah, he really needs there not to be a 10-3 on the board anymore. Whoa!
I think this is a really reasonable, responsible choice to make. You get a huge board from this.
Yikes.
You don't die to your opponent. You get your Gul'dan online. It's another reset attempt. Like, you're trying to reset that board to try to snag back tempo again.
That was a look away moment, though. That was a shut your eyes. I am hitting this 10-3 with my AA. I'll tell you when it's safe to come from under the covers.
Don't look! Don't watch me do that. I'm sorry, Mom. That's what Bohemian Rhapsody was written about.
Oh, the man she killed was a 10-3 with her AA? No! Don't show it to us anymore. No! You sick, sick person. This is pre-Watershed. That is not age appropriate. You want to get it shut down?
Oh, I was like, what is purple doing? And then I realized, oh, it's just a defile.
Oh, there's got to be a defile here.
Oh, Doomsayer on Galen's side.
All right, that's a big deal. Spellbreaker number 2 for purple, though. 2 breakers in both of these lists for Galen and purple. Coming in real clutch, especially on purple's side. So far in the matchup.
Purple got the early use from Doomsayers. Galen has them later on. It's not typically where you want them, but sometimes you can find those good situations. Having the extra 3 damage from Death and Decay is a really big deal where longevity is concerned. Yeah, he's fighting super hard to get this done.
Yeah. And this one's just going long from here. Both players have got Gul'dan down safely. Both players have answered a great deal of the opponent's threats. This one's settling in for the long haul now, I think, Admirable.
I think that favors purple if I remember the cards correctly. Good, Galen has a Doomsayer left.
My hunger grows.
Does he? Because he made the Sun Fury play early on with his first.
You're right. No,
Doomsayer,
you're
right?
absolutely right. That one can be really good too. I mean, there's a real chance that this gets down to the, the last little bits of cards in the deck.
Here goes the Hellfire, and there's going to be a 4/7 coming down alongside this. That was a real strong swing for Galen.
Oh, stupid 16 health.
It sounded like a happy noise. You're upset.
Well,
I couldn't tell the difference.
It is a 4/4. You're pretty happy with that. It's right out. It's 1 pip outside of the range of the Gul'dan suck power.
Yeah.
As I often feel as I face against it.
Oh, don't worry, Admirable. You have infinite suck power.
Thanks, Subtle.
It's really hard to tell whether that was a compliment or not, wasn't it? Spoilers, it wasn't.
I think I'm seeing purple come ahead because of this this Doom Pact. I think once all the final cards are dealt, there's nothing left. You get the Doom Pact to clear your opponent's board.
Yeah. I can see it.
And also the one card also from the fatigue count as well. You know, Galen's going to be the first one taking that damage, and over the course of its entirety, that leads to a lot.
Yeah. And he is also currently the player playing from behind as well. He's the one that's having to find answers every single turn to Purple's board, whereas Purple's just continuing to develop. I will say Purple just feels so at home here in these situations, and he really is. I mean, I've never seen... Okay, I'll hang on. When we wind that back, there are 2 players that I have seen talk more about fatigue than any other players in Hearthstone, and they are Purple and they are Firebat. Those are the 2 players that just want to fatigue people in every single matchup. And Purple is so well known for his gift of playing extreme late games that you just saw in one of the breaks. We made a video package about how good he is in playing late game.
It's that famous match versus Tom. At the Summer Championships, where I remember because you and I were sitting backstage watching.
AMS, yes.
It was a Evolved Shaman from Purple versus the Control Mage with Kazakus from Tom. And we looked up, and I go, does Purple lose here? We go, yeah. And about 6 turns later, we go, wait a minute, this Lich King's sticking to the board here. And Purple ends up fatiguing Tom's Control Mage as an Evolve Aggro Shaman.
Yep. And it was this 3 to 4 turn, multifaceted, multi-layered setup involving this anti-magic shell, which then just created this board that was too much value for Tom to ever deal with. He used that board to just trade away everything Tom had left in his deck for the rest of the game. It was beautiful. It gave me a happy.
This turn is going to give Purple a big happy because he gets to Hellfire to clear, smash face for 8, heal back up his Giant, and use the suck hero power, and that's a massive bad thing that's happening for Galen.
Is indeed a massive bad thing.
That's a massive... I mean, look at what happened to the health totals here. So now, Death and Decay gets expended, Galen clears off the Giant, and once again is fighting from that spot where he's going, how do I fight from behind here? This just keeps happening turn after turn. If Galen goes for the Shroom Brewer, he loses his Shroom Brewer to a 4/1. That's not a happy Hearthstone play. However, does have an Acidic Swamp Boost for Bone Mare. That is a happy Hearthstone play.
First turn in a while where Purple really hasn't had significant development, but it's kind of done its job. It's put Galen on the back foot for so long that Purple has now got into a life lead. He's got into a fatigue lead. 1 card remaining for Galen, 2 for himself. So now Galen has to try and make some magic happen with just these few remaining ragtag group of minions that he has. It's tough to see it.
Yeah, but I think the face that Galen's making right now is a big part of what's happening. I'm just watching Purple. He's getting ready to go is what it looks like to me.
He's so calm. He's so ice cold that he just had to roll his sleeves down to keep himself warm in this scenario. This is just his bread and butter.
I'm not exactly certain what really happened that led to this point, but, you know, he just kept fighting and he kept fighting, and then suddenly you look up, and Purple's tools line up a lot better than Gallon's do.
Yep.
A lot of it does boil down to that first school down as well. You know, I really have to give a lot of respect to Gallon for making that 8-8 into the 10-3 trade. I think that actually gave him a chance to win in this game. And it's just not going to happen. Oh, I also forgot that there was both of those left.
Spellstone, yeah, and I think we just saw the concession, essentially. A concession in spirit from Gallon. He knows the cards remaining. He doesn't have enough minions to beat 2 Spellstones at this point. There's his second to last push going down to Hellfire and 1 Spellstone. And I'm not sure what this last remaining card is, but I find myself doubting that it's going to be able to break through Spellstone number 2.
And as if Purple had calculated all of this, it's right before Gallon hits the... It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to have to use this hero power. Ah, but he's going to be at 18. I definitely want to hit a minion here.
There it is.
Gallon scoops it up. Purple 3 games to 2. The only deck that can seemingly lose every